On today's episode of The Intangibles, we'll be kicking things off as always with the play of the game. At 8:45, we'll choose the Hottie of the Week and the Little Bitch of the Day. At 17:14, we'll break down the Maple Hills MVP Open. And finally, at 36:16, we've got a super secret bonus segment. Absolutely nasty. Welcome to The Intangibles, the Drop Zone, with your hosts, Leonard Peebley.
Hey, everybody.
And Wolfmere. Yeah, we're fully embracing it. We're over every other game. We're just talking about disc golf from now until the end of time. So get used to it, all right? Overwatch is dead. We hate that game until It Takes Two, Part 2, It Takes 3 comes out. We won't be talking about any other games.
No video games at all. I have to say that the juxtaposition of Leonard and Wolfmere as your hosts is pretty strange.
It can be like the Eastern European host, you know? Oh, yeah, it's Wolfmere.
I was gonna say, you sound like you're an esports commentator or host with that.
Yeah.
Versus Leonard sounds like just an old white guy.
Leonard Peebley. You'll fit in just fine. All right. Well, let's get down to things, Matt, with the play of the game.
Poke chat, poke chat.
And I'm going to kick it to you first.
You're gonna kick it to me?
Yeah.
Well, in true drop zone fashion, I have a play of the game that is disc golf related, as you can imagine. And I'm going to give the intangible play of the game to the abstract concept of sheer dumb luck. And more specifically, I want to give an example of this and why this is in my head right now. So in round one,
is this the Ricky Wysocki shot?
No.
Okay.
You'll probably remember this one. So in round one of the MVP Open, which is being hosted at Maple Hill this year, the Jomez coverage card had a player who I haven't actually watched before or much before. His name is Raven Newsom. He had a very hot round that first round, and there was one putt in particular. It was on hole number 15. It was a fairly lengthy putt. I don't remember the actual distance, but it was not a gimme by any means. You know, it was a tough one, and he blasted it in there just a little bit high, and it comes in on top of the basket. And he, you know, his body language and everything, he immediately thinks that he's missed that putt. But what happens is it kind of bounces off the top there and kind of rolls off the top of the basket, and somehow falls down in such a way that the basket actually does catch the disc. So this shot that should have just bounced off and been a drop in at that point for his par ends up rolling into the basket somehow and giving him a birdie. And so I'm giving the play of the game to luck.
Sheer dumb luck.
And you know, having that on your side once in a while. So that's my POTG.
I like that. We're going to be talking about Maple Hill today, and across the entire tournament, MPO and FPO, sheer dumb luck played a major factor because there's a lot of trees. And so there's a lot of luck. Do you manage to get through? Do you hit a tree? If you hit a tree, is it helping you maybe? Is it cursing you? You'll never come back from this? Believe it or not, I have a non-disc golf related play of the game.
That's great. I mean, we got to keep our audience who's not disc golf, interested on board somehow.
Yeah. So, League of Legends fans, get ready, because here's your food. Troy and I were playing solo duo queue, and me, Troy, and Jaren, these are my League of Legends buddies, have been playing a lot as the season starts to wind up. We're trying to make a run for as high a rank as we can get, and things have been going pretty well. But Troy and I were playing some duo queue, just he and I. I'm playing support, he's playing jungle. We're with 3 other random teammates. You know how that goes. You're just, speaking of sheer dumb luck, you're just spinning the wheel, seeing who you get. Well, one thing that happens, and you'll remember this from Overwatch, is that sometimes you'll get people on your teammates who have usernames that are Twitch links or YouTube links. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And, in League, you have chat, and you'll sometimes get into a pregame lobby, and someone will just instantly drop their Twitch link. And, of course, usually it's like Hot Guy 69 420, whatever it is. And, they advise you, even when you click on a link, it will say, are you sure you want to follow this link? Because you might just be going to some porn right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have changed my policy, and now whenever someone drops their Twitch link, I always click on it. Because I want to see what their Twitch is like and what they're like. And if I get any red flags, I dodge the game immediately.
That makes sense.
So that's been my new policy. And 99 times out of 100, they're exactly the person you would imagine as your random teammate in Silver Q streaming to Twitch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're barely paying attention. They're getting drunk. They're like, I remember one time I went in there and the guy was like, oh shit, I'm jungle? What do I play? And it's like, dodge. But this one time with me and Troy, the guy we went to was a guy about our age, a mid-30s guy, had a beautiful, clean Twitch stream setup, had the lights, was very chill, had some, lo-fi music going on. I went in there, I said, hey, let's get it, buddy, because he was my teammate in the bot lane. He's like, hell yeah, let's go. Very chill, very cool. And Troy and I were like, we have to win this game. This is a normal person that we got teamed up with. We have to win it for Red Bear, which is what his username was. And we pulled it out. We did it. We won the game for him. And he played great. He played amazingly. He also, during his stream, he was playing some great music. I picked up a new song for my playlist, Holy Roller by Spirit Box.
Oh, yeah, you sent that to me, yeah. That's awesome. Well, you know what? 1 out of 10,000 ain't bad. That's what I always say.
Yeah, it gave me a little bit of faith in humanity.
No, that's great. I mean, it is good to find a good one once in a while. And I do like that. It actually motivated you to try even harder than you were try-harding before. So,
well, Troy and I were talking. We're like, this feels like more pressure than we've ever felt before in a game. It's like we have to do it for this guy. He deserves the win.
That's great. I love it.
All right, so enough video games. Let's get back into disc golf. So we're trying out a little bit of a new format here. We've got, since we're wanting to go to the drop zone and do more regular disc golf content, we're going to be doing a few mini segments as well as breaking down the most recent tournament/news from the disc golf world. So we're going to start with the Hottie of the Week or Baddie of the Week, whatever you prefer. And of course, like all our segments, it's up to your interpretation how you want to say that. But who or what is the Hottie or Baddie of the Week, Matt?
My Hottie of the Week is, and I thought about this because it's hard. Like, this seems too obvious and too easy, but I think I have to give it to him anyway. So my Hottie of the Week is going to be Simon Lizotte. So we'll get into the full details of the tournament here in a minute, but Simon was on the chase card on final day and had the best round of the weekend. Ended up winning the tournament with his play and some other things going on at the end of the day. So his 10 under round for his final round brings him to be my Hottie of the Week.
I buy that. I will say, I think Simon Lizotte is my favorite player on tour. I think we've already talked about this question, and I forget what I said. I think I might have mentioned Greg Barsby, who I do like, but Simon's just so lovable. He's just such a cool dude.
Yep.
So I buy that.
Yeah. Not only is he the Hottie in this round, he's a man crush for sure. So
yeah. speaking of man crush, and we've already started talking about it, my hottie of the week is Raven Newsom.
Let's go.
Yeah, I took note of that same shot that you were talking about. Insane. I think during the Jomez coverage, Big Germ was like, "I've never seen that in 16 years of playing," which I believe. It disobeys the laws of physics when you watch it. It's well worth it. Also, I don't know. He's another one of these guys like Aaron Gossage during Worlds. I've never seen him before. Don't know anything about him. He's just a cute little boy, and he's just a sweetheart. And he also had a lot of good shots on that first round. He had a great one where he wound up behind the basket, up a hill through brush, and before he took the shot, he looks back at the cameraman, and you can't really hear what he's saying. I think the commentators were speculating that he was saying, do you have a good angle for the shot on me? But I think he might have just been joking with the guy. And then throws it through brush, downhill, makes it, and then does the Hawkeye arrow, which became his signature move over the course. It just seemed like he was having a blast. And just what a dreamboat. Hottie of the week, Raven Newsom.
Yep. He had the hot round for the day. He was 5 under, leading the pack after round 1. So good for him. I hope we see him more often.
Yeah, and he played pretty well going into round 2 as well. Had some more good shots. All right, so little bitch or little shit of the day, Matt. Who do you got?
This was kind of tough for me because I don't really have anybody who I would call like the little bitch of the day or the week, if that makes sense. Like I didn't really see anything where I was disappointed or upset by someone's behavior or anything like that, which is really what I would attribute, this to typically. So rather than that, this feels mean almost that I'm going this way, but it's the only thing I could really tie to it this week. And I'm unfortunately going to give it to Corey Ellis. Corey was vying for first place, was on number 18, had a chance to push it to a playoff. And his upshot, his shot to get close to the basket, it flew. It was a bad shot. You could tell when it released, it just wasn't
past
good.
The rock wall.
Yeah, and so it put him in a position where he had a long putt just to push it to a playoff. Which ultimately he got really close on that putt. He was about to walk it in. I think he thought he had it, and it just missed. So it was sad for him, and he's been really good this year. I've enjoyed watching him. I like him a lot as a player. There's a photo of him in, like, I don't want to call it the clubhouse, but there's like a little house of some kind right there at the end, and there's a photo of him, basically sitting down, kind of like with his hand in his head. It's like you could see how just disappointed he was in himself there, after playing so hard, and he was chasing that whole round at the end there, trying to get back up to the top. And so I think he's going to win, one of these big major events soon, and I hope next year we see him on the lead cards as often or more than we saw him this year.
Yeah, it's sad. So that's your little bitch of the day.
Yes, unfortunately. I love you, Corey.
So I have a suggestion here, and maybe we can come together. I want to nominate Simon Lizotte for little bitch.
All right, perfect.
So I already said, I like Simon Lizotte a lot. I wrote down, I agree with you. Honestly, little bitch of the day should go to Corey Ellis for throwing the championship away. And not you skipped over this part. His drive on 18 was insane.
Oh, it was
Corey
immaculate.
Ellis's was.
It was beautiful. Yep.
Perfect. They were creaming their jeans watching this drive. This is the greatest drive on this hole ever. And it's a tough hole. You've got a rock wall that you have to hug all along that side, and then it leads into a narrow island green hooking on a dogleg to the right. And he really set himself up really well. And so I don't want to give him little bitch of the day because he went for it. He could have just laid up a lot easier and just said, I'm going for the playoff. But he actually went for it. So I don't want to give it to him. So I'm giving it to Simon because he even said this in his interview after he won the championship. He's like, I never thought I was even in this tournament, basically. I was playing okay, but he was never on the lead card the entire time. I didn't even know he was like remotely part of the competition. Also, they said this as well. This year he's gotten married and had a kid, so I think he's won enough. And so that's why I want to say that he's the little bitch of the day.
I mean, I can get down with that. That's fine. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're both trying to say that these players are awesome and we like them both. So
yeah, definitely. I feel bad for Corey. Like he snatched defeat from the jaws of victory at the very last second, especially because going into that last one, it was him and Linus Carlson who were competing, and Linus just, I think Corey threw a great one, and then Linus just threw it away.
Yep.
So it was totally up to Corey what happened next.
Yep.
So I just feel for him. So I can't bear to give him little bitch of the day.
Yep, no, and that's why I said I felt bad. It felt painful. Here's what I should have done, and I thought about this but didn't do it. I should have given the little bits of the day to the tour director, whoever it was, who tried to give Paul Macbeth
Doug.
the microphone at the end of this, even though Paul Macbeth didn't win the points total, Ricky Wysocki did. And Paul Macbeth was actually like, go talk to him. Like, and so good job, Paul. I thought about giving
that.
Yeah, so you'd have to be. I discovered this in reading some other comment chains about the tournament and kind of the finish of it. And so Paul and Ricky were basically fighting for that point total, and it ended up being Ricky at the end of it all. And so that would have been a good alternate here to give little bitch of the day to the TD and Hottie of the week potentially to Paul for being a good guy, Greg, about it.
All right, or little bitch of the day to whoever is in charge of that interview process.
Yeah, definitely. So we're workshopping it. We'll get this better week to week, guys. Don't worry.
I do think it's very funny that our very first Hottie Baddie of the week, little bitch of the day, we both nominated the same person, but for opposite awards. That's pretty fun.
And it might happen often. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we will break down the tournament, MPO and FPO.
Oh, let's break it down! Why are you so angry?
And we're back! MPO, Maple Hill. We're in the playoffs. Maybe you can help me out with this, Matt. What does it mean that we're in the playoffs right
now? So we talked a little bit about how the world's setup is not super sensical for a world title, right? So the reality of the Disc Golf Pro Tour right now is that there is kind of a similar thing to what we were proposing the worlds be, and that is the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but basically they do factor in these points in how these guys start out this
you
tournament.
Get a certain number of buys, basically.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the details, but that feeds into like that final tournament, basically. And so that's what they're saying when we're talking about playoffs. Like, the points total is now set in stone. Ricky came in first with the yearly points total. Paul came in second, yada, yada, yada. And that's really what they're talking about as far as playoffs, as far as I know, is like basically we were in the playoffs, meaning we're about to finish that out and close out what that point total is.
Gotcha. Yeah, because there's like a weird in-between period. Like, we had Worlds, which is obviously this big major tournament, and then a tournament after that nobody went to, essentially, except a few people trying to scrape up some points. And then we went to playoffs, which now people are like, everybody, all the major players are back in there trying to cinch up their spots in the USDGA championship. Yeah, so Maple Hill, Massachusetts. As I've said many a time, this is my first time watching all of these events. And you and I have talked about favorite courses. This is something we can talk about later as well, but what do you think of Maple Hill?
I like Maple Hill a lot. I think it's an interesting course. It's obviously challenging. We kind of touched on the fact that a lot of it is wooded, and there definitely is kind of a luck factor involved with that. You know, if you miss lines, who knows where that disc is going to end up after it hits some trees. But it makes for some pretty interesting disc golf, and it never... So, like, we talked about Simon's hot round of 10 under. Throughout the weekend, like, it wasn't like it was consistent for any one player. It was clearly challenging, and it wasn't like people were scoring 10 down every single round. So I like that. I like watching the best players being challenged by these holes, and I just think that a lot of the hole designs are interesting and fun.
Definitely. So it's very different to say, at the Beast in the European Open where, that was a unique set of circumstances, but the final scores were like 40 under the very best. And even, that was the McBattle. Mm-hmm. But even beyond that, the next person who was way further down was like 26 under. Mm-hmm. In this tournament, the best scores at the end of 3 rounds were like 12 under.
Yeah, 16 under was what Simon was total throughout everything. So... yeah, it's a tough course.
It's a tough course, and it were tough conditions. It was windy for the first 2 rounds, and it was rainy on the third and final round. So it was a very low-scoring affair. I think that this year, which is all I've watched so far, I saw the most movement between rounds. Like, the lead card was constantly changing. There was no one clearly at the top. Like, Corey Ellis, who was leading it in the final round, wasn't on the first 2 lead cards. So that was pretty fun to watch. It made it much more about like, you really are playing golf. You're trying to minimize damage, try to get your pars, try to make runs where you can, and not blow up your score by throwing out of bounds.
Yep. And just one quick other note. I know we'll talk about FPO more in a second, but we mentioned that 16 under was the final cumulative score for the men. For FPO, it was 1 over, I believe.
And that started at, I think, the lead card in the final round of the women's side, which was 4 total rounds. The lead card was like +4 to +6 was like the range. Mm-hmm. And then the best score was +1.
Yeah.
So, and their first day was misery. Both like their first 2 days were misery on the FPO side.
Well, they canceled the first round of the MPO because it was such a deluge out there. It was nasty.
Yeah. So jumping back to MPO, all the usual suspects are in the mix. But going into the final round, Linus Karlsson looked super steady almost the entire round. Was just playing very consistent disc golf. Especially compared to Gannon Burr, who kind of crumbled in the final round, and Corey Ellis, who was competing for the top but threw some pretty bad shots as well, especially got off to a very bad start at the beginning of the final round. He started with a bogey and a double bogey in like the first 3 holes, something like that.
Yeah, it was rough, and I'm sure that was part of him, at the end of the round, sitting there with his head in his hands, thinking about what could have been, right? Like, you're in this position
where I
where
played better.
Exactly, yeah. So, I do agree, yes. Usual suspects, but then also some new faces, like we talked about. And that's another reason why I just like this kind of style of course. I feel like you do have opportunities, like you don't have to just be a big thrower to achieve on these courses, like there's so much more to it that it gives opportunities to people you don't always see.
Definitely. Like if I were watching one of these events, I would definitely love to watch Simon Lizotte just rip a disc 600, 700 feet or whatever. But I get more impressed watching people thread the needle and can consistently find the path to the basket. Especially because it's kind of like what you and I have said when you watch pro esports too. When you can imagine yourself in that circumstance, like when I watch them throw 1,000-foot par 5, it's like, well, that would be 8 strokes for me to get that minimum. So it's impressive, but it doesn't mean as much as when it's a 200-foot downhill through the woods with water in the back, where it's like, if I were there on my best day, I could do that, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And then Corey Ellis, very impressively, even though he gets off to that rough start, he battles back super hard. Like, he looks like he's kind of out of it at first, and then strings together a great series of holes to tie up Linus, who's just playing super consistently. And then, as we said, they get to hole 18. Both he and Linus are playing for the outright win if either of them can birdie over the other. Or if they can par, they can force a playoff, with each other or with Simon. And it starts with Corey driving. He just obliterates his drive. It's 513 feet uphill in the middle of the fairway. Like, absolutely crushes it. And I was, at this point when I was watching, I was like, well, he's got it. Like, it just seems completely free and open to him. Linus shanks it, so just opens it up completely to him. And then, yeah, that shot by Corey afterwards, it's not even close. It's not like, oh, what a bad break. He just blasts it over the out of bounds.
Yeah, and it seemed like he held his composure pretty well at that point still. That final putt that would have pushed it for the playoff was good.
Yeah, it was a great run.
And I think he thought he had it initially. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what was the other tournament that Corey was like? Was it D-Glow? I can't remember. It was the tournament that took place on the ski resort. It was
Toboggan, right?
Yeah, it took place on the ski resort where Corey Ellis was like in the lead the entire tournament. Mm-hmm. And then in the last round kind of fell apart. And I think Heimberg got it at the end.
I'll look this up because I think it was a Toboggan, but I can't remember which tournament that was. But yes, he was. That was the first time this year that I really was watching him. I was like, well, this guy's going to win some of these.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's still, obviously he was right there in this tournament, and he's been on lead cards quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll figure it out eventually, but it was that tournament, whatever it was.
Yeah, so I really feel for him. I was glad that he ran it, but yeah, it just kind of sucked. And then, like, the whole time you're watching it, Simon is in the background, just like his head in his hands, just being like, It's no longer up to him. He's done the work. Congrats to Simon for sure. Like, amazing. Like, this is the first time I think I've seen this year someone not on the lead card get the win, which is pretty cool.
So this was the first time that this happened since like 2016, I want to say. So it's been a long time since we've had this situation. It was really interesting watching the coverage of the final round lead card because you would hear the crowd on the chase card ahead of them screaming during some of their throws. Like, there was a couple putts where people actually backed off and kind of relined up because the crowd went wild fairly close by and they, got a little distracted. So I imagine I don't know if that's easier or more difficult to play with as like being on the lead card. I mean, on the one hand, you don't have the crowd with you, but on the other, you hear somebody's doing some good shit up there,
Right.
I don't know if that's better or worse, but it was very interesting to experience that as a viewer.
And also in general, like, the Maple Hill crowd just seemed very rowdy in a good way, like very positive energy from the crowd.
There's that island hole green where they had a crowd there, and basically if you landed if you landed it on there, they'd go buck wild. And of course, the flag people letting you know if you were inbounds or out of bounds were having a good time running back and forth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's another reason why I like this course a lot, because it is the kind of course that's set up well for spectators, usually draws a good crowd, and gives it that kind of even better like background to it. It feels like it matters more because of it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk FPO as well. They did the full 4 rounds. They did not get completely hosed out of one round. Mm-hmm. Kristen Tatar is like the person to beat this year. From everything I understand. She's
so consistent. She's won. I mean, she won Worlds. She won the next tournament she played in. She's just been absolutely on fire this year. And like, there's all sorts of talk around Paige Pierce and her trying to win one more and be the best of all time. And then you've got Kristen stepping up this year and just beating her kind of time after time. So it's going to be really interesting to see moving forward.
For sure.
Is this the new wave? Is this the next big FPO winner who's going to be the person to beat? Or, is it just going to be a big competition between her and a few others up there? Hard to say.
It is, yeah. The Foundation Boys, their podcast, they were talking about Kristen Tatar. And their theory, which I kind of buy, is that Kristen is like a great player, but their opinion is that what sets her above and beyond the other players right now is that she's the better golf player. Mm-hmm. Like, she will go for par when she needs to.
Sure.
And she knows when to run it. She knows when to be conservative. And Paige Pierce runs everything right now, basically. And that's that's why she's not winning. Paige Pierce is doing fine. Like,
she is, yeah, definitely.
It's a different metric for a person who's won Worlds 5 times, right? But the reason Kristen Tatar is outperforming her this year is because she's willing to play smart and play conservatively at the right time, and then knows her limits and when to go for it. And definitely watching her play with that in mind, it definitely feels that way.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's the model of consistency right now, and that I think makes a lot of sense that she's making decisions like that and really playing to her own strengths throughout the rounds. So, yeah, she had a great 4 rounds. It was so similar to the MPO. It was fun to watch things kind of change on who was up towards the top. Kristen was there pretty much the whole time, but like Sarah Hokum had some great shots and great rounds.
Man, love watching her play.
Yeah, I mean, forehand dominant player, right?
Yeah.
She had a throw in on, was it 18 that she had the throw in? I can't remember which hole it was.
I'm not sure either.
But she had kind of a funky line where she had to go pretty high hyzer, and it spiked right in.
It was 18.
And then Katrina Allen, I think, was on her card and threw her putt between some trees from the same spot.
That's right. And they did back-to-back on that. It was so cool. And then you have a huge crowd right there by the farm.
And they were having a good time with it, yeah. And then Natalie Ryan, she's been pretty consistently good this year, too. I think she won at Toboggan this year, too, if I remember correctly, or she was near the top. Which this is kind of interesting now. You know, we're talking about 2 of the same players, one an MPO, one an FPO, doing well on this course and that course. So maybe it's a similarity in the course style.
I can believe that because both those courses are very hilly. Like, there's a lot of change in elevations that you get on both these courses.
Hilly, woods, yeah, definitely. But yeah, she was hanging on at the top throughout the whole round, and it came down to the very last hole between her and Kristen Tatar.
That's right.
To find out who the winner was. And really it came down to Kristen not putting hers as close as Natalie. Neither of them had a gimme, but she was just far enough out that she missed her putt. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you're skipping over. They went to playoffs in the final round.
You are correct,
because
yeah.
On the 18th hole, Kristen and Natalie separated themselves from the pack. And actually, Paige Pierce on the chase card, much like Simon Lizotte, was like hovering around there as well. Didn't get to see this coverage, but it sounded like on like 17 or 18, Paige 3-putted and basically put herself out of competition there. So now it's Kristen and Natalie, and they both managed to push themselves to playoff, kind of playing a little bit conservatively at the end. And then it goes to the playoff, and they're going to hole 18. So for Maple Hill, it's 18-1 on a loop until somebody wins. So they started in 18. Kristen lands a very nervy shot on the island. So she does, I think she went forehand and landed on the island, maybe a 30-foot putt, something like that, which is like a great shot from where she was. And then Natalie follows it up and is parked. Like, she has a tap in. So now Kristen has to make a 30-foot putt to push it to the next hole. And is just short. Like, it's so close. It's just like Corey's shot. Like, hits the basket, falls out, and now it gets to tap in for the championship. It was really damn exciting. I really liked watching, especially the final round. Like, the women's side, they had such bad weather to play through the entire time. It was just a nightmare. And I really enjoyed watching the final round where it was pretty nice weather and they could just play some disc golf. And it was really close between Natalie and Kristen. You knew Paige was lurking as well. So it was really fun to watch.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed, and I don't know if I'm sure you have, but I think it's DGN releases basically like round by round highlight videos that kind of just show all the good stuff from a bunch of different players.
I've blocked them for spoiler purposes, but yes.
Well, which makes total sense. I mean, I watch those kind of after watching rounds and everything and knowing what happened. But it's a great way. Like, if you don't have time to watch the entire rounds, it's a great way to get a feel for what happened, who had the hot rounds, and see, obviously the best shots of the weekend. So.
Yeah, and speaking of the Hottie of the Week, if you go watch Jomez's highlights, it's like an 8-minute video. So if you've already watched the tournament or you don't want to watch it, you just want to watch the highlights, they do their top 10 shots, and spots 2 and 1 go to Raven, which is kind of cheating because I think their number 2 is actually 4 different shots. He gets 4 circle 2 putts in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's his number 2 shot, and then he lands the crazy shot you described that hits the pole and dribbles in.
Oh man, I want to give an honorable mention on the MPO side to Gannon Burr. Only for he had, I forget which round it was. I think it was round 2, but he had 2 different like near ace runs on the front 9 during that round. He had 2 that literally bounced off the basket. And one of them, I think, almost went out of bounds. It was that island hole, but the kind of wall there by the water caught it. But it literally it was 2 inches higher, it would have been in the basket.
Yeah, I mean, he had so many great ace runs, and it's so frustrating because it's like, what a different world if you get that ace, and then the momentum you build up from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt, I've got one more segment for you today.
Let's hear it. I have no idea what it is, everybody.
Welcome to Birdie, Bogey, or Par. So we're going to go through some different things, some disc golf things, some non-disc golf things, and we're going to have a discussion. Is it a birdie, a bogey, or a par? And it's up to you to evaluate how you want to judge that, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, birdie, bogey, or par? Maple Hill as a disc golf course.
Oh, that's a birdie, baby. This one is above the standard, if that makes sense. It's better than the average. It is a birdie.
I would also give it a birdie, and I would say this is what Idlewild wishes it could be, I think. It's like it has the difficulty factor, but it's so much more picturesque. It's so much more, I don't know, it was so much more fun to watch, and it feels like you can really get some good plays. The one thing I have against it are, like I have in this image here, these Christmas tree sections. It seems like nobody actually clears them, basically, so it's just pure luck if you have a look out of them or not. And it's just going to get harder and harder over time. Mm-hmm.
Well, and fun fact, I mean, this place is a Christmas tree farm, is my understanding. So that explains why you've got all these trees out here.
Yeah. Yeah, Dad and I were watching some of the FPO yesterday, and he was very excited about the Christmas tree farm. But we agree, yes, Maple Hill is
the man loves
a
his
bird.
wood. I mean, what can you say?
All right, next up. Flag bearers on hole 8. Birdie, bogey, or par?
You know, I give him a birdie for effort, but for my enjoyment, I give him a bogey.
You did like them for your enjoyment?
They were fine. After a while, it was kind of like, I don't know. Again,
we get it, guys.
Birdie for effort, bogey for my own viewing pleasure.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, in any given disc golf tournament, when you throw, there are people spotting your throws to be inbounds or out of bounds. And they have a green flag that they'll wave if it's inbounds and a red flag if it's out of bounds. And for this course, they have a few special flag bearers on hole 8, this amazing over the water, over the lake, island hole. And if you land it, 3 or 4 people will start running across the island with giant green flags, which is very novel. It's very cool. But yeah, you kind of get tired of it eventually.
I think part of my problem with it too is that, like, there are instances where when a disc actually makes the island, it is like an exciting thing where you would have that level of enthusiasm. So like Gannon's shot that bounced off the basket, almost went out of bounds, stayed in bounds. Yes, right. Give me that energy. If someone parks one next to the basket, I like that energy, I guess, but they also know that they landed it. So it's not like, you don't necessarily need that green waviness for them on that one. So I don't know.
I think I will give it a birdie overall. I think you're right. It is pretty cool. It's a very unique thing. Mm-hmm. And I love the crowd, like something you don't get if you just watch the highlights or the coverage like we do. is there's a group of people on stands behind this island called the 8 Holes, and they do a slow clap as the players arrive to the island, and there's a lot of hype built up around it, which is a unique, cool thing about the course. So that's a birdie for me.
I didn't know they were called the 8 Holes. That's pretty good.
So that was on the FPO coverage that I learned that.
I would expect them to be like dicks if you missed the shot or something. Then like boo,
you suck. That would be great. All right, next up, creamy chicken lemon rice soup.
When we had this on Monday night, I probably would have given it a par. It was solid. I've been eating it for lunch this week, and I don't know if it's gotten better or if my enjoyment has gone up, but I'm giving it a birdie.
Nice. Okay, that's fair. I am giving it a par myself. I thought taste-wise, it's great. I love it. It was easy to make. So for those who don't know, this is because me and Matt and Matt's wife make dinner every Monday. This was Amber's suggestion, was creamy chicken lemon rice soup, and it was quite good. I give it a par not because of the taste, but because soup can only get so high in my book. Like, a par is great for soup. I'll take it for sure.
I definitely agree with what you're saying there. I think because this is my work lunch, it gets a birdie. If this was like my Friday night dinner, this would get a triple bogey.
Yeah, great for leftovers. Awesome for leftovers. All right, next up. Paul Macbeth's round 2 outfit.
Oh, okay. When I read this, I was like, he threw a fit in round 2? I missed that.
No. His outfit. He's wearing for the listener, he's wearing a bright pink polo with a green collared pullover, black pants, and his black hat, Paul Macbeth hat with a pink logo.
I think I can taste the bogey in your words.
I guess I'll just say that. For me, it's a bogey. It's a big bogey.
So when I first saw this outfit, and on hole number 1, which you have pictured here, he throws a pink disc as well. So he had the whole everything was color coordinated, and I don't know that the whole disc portion was intentional. My immediate thought was, look at this guy. I'll give him a par for it. I don't have any real significant problems with it. I've seen people dressed in much more annoying manners, I guess is what I'll say. But yeah, I like I said, my first impression was okay.
Yeah, I thought Thomas Gilbert was on a lead card at one point, and he dresses like my college friends, basically, when I was in college. He's like khaki shorts and a red... He's wearing what I'm wearing right now to record, basically. So, I get it. There's something going on here. He gets a little bit of a nod, I guess. I'm giving him the bogey, though. I've seen him dressed much sharper. Next up, holes 18 and 1 on loop for the playoff.
I like this. I'd give this a birdie, I think. Hole number 18 is challenging, but not, impossible, if that makes sense. So it requires good shots, but I wouldn't say it really requires a lot of luck at all on that one. You got to get a good drive. That'll give you a good look at the approach. You should be able to do that. Hole number 1, on the other hand, I think it's the second most challenging hole in the course.
That's right.
And you have a long drive to start. If you're not in a good position for your approach, it makes it much more difficult. Getting to the actual green, there's one path to get there, and then you got to find openings in the trees otherwise. So I think 18, you've got a chance for everybody to execute well, see what happens. Number 1 is you still got to execute well, but there's a little bit of in there too. I
feel like very different holes as well.
Very much so. Yes, very much so.
And I would give this. I will give this a birdie as well, because 18 and 1 means you're in the same rough vicinity. You're not running all over the course as well. So.
Yeah, and I feel like they pretty much have to do that. If you made it number 9 and number 18 and they were in complete opposite sides of the course, you'd be a moron of a tour director, right?
you would be, unless they're just so separating.
Iconic.
Yeah. Give this a birdie for sure. Next up, Dart mission impacting Dimorphos.
I mean, that's an albatross, man. I mean, just space rockets and shit. That's cool.
Okay. Controversially, I'm going to give this a par. So here's my reasoning for giving this a par. I think as far as like humanity's endeavors and like what we're capable of, like you're saying, ace, eagle, albatross, like whatever accolade you want to give it, amazing. It does make me a little sad that we're capable of this and we can't solve simple problems here on Earth.
Yeah.
It does make me a little bit sad.
Yeah.
So I give it an overall par.
I think that's fair. I mean, I also don't have any idea what the outcome or anything that happened around this is. I'm just vaguely familiar with it, so.
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, there's a NASA mission called DART where we purposefully crashed a satellite into an asteroid, which was not on an orbit heading towards Earth. It's a test to see if we found an asteroid heading towards Earth, could we divert it by crashing a satellite into it? And so far, we have to see what the results are. We did impact it, so all of that has gone good. There's awesome footage online. It looks like a pretty positive thing that this could be a way to divert an extinction level event.
Yeah.
But we currently have like 2 to 5 extinction level events happening on planet Earth right now, so I don't know how good this is.
Yeah, we won't deal with those. Those are in-house problems. We can't. So if you want to watch live or recorded footage of what happened here, there's you need to visit your local library and get the historical video Armageddon. Fast forward a little ways to when they land on the asteroid, and then that's basically what happened.
To when Bruce Willis closes his eyes and sees Arwen in his flashback memory.
The crossover we all knew we needed. Yes, exactly. It's pretty cool how they landed a satellite on the planet, drilled a hole, and blew it up with a nuclear bomb.
All right, next up. We got a couple more here. Birdie, bogey, or par. Making disc golf baskets smaller. So this is some debate that I've seen online in some YouTube videos where in golf, the size of the golf hole is twice as big as a golf ball. And so there's an argument, shouldn't the disc golf basket be twice as wide as a disc golf disc?
I give this idea a bogey, and I give all the people who think this should be identical and quantifiable in the same way as ball golf an absolute F. They fail. They're thrown back to first grade. They need to start over and think about what they've done.
Ooh, Matt, you're speaking my language right now. I 100% agree. They're not the same sports. They're not the same projectiles. You can't just draw a 1-to-1 like ratio between the two things.
Yeah, shouldn't our holes now be 600 yards long instead of 600 feet, you know? Because
absolutely,
it's just like golf. We got to be just like
golf.
If
you scale up a disc golf disc and you look at how small a ball is, okay, so now, every hole needs to be 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. I just don't understand this argument at all.
I think it's people trying to get clicks.
Yeah, I agree. Which I guess they did. They got me on it.
Yeah, no, I would not entertain this idea. I think it's stupid.
And finally, birdie, bogey, or par, William Trubridge free fall diving. Are you ready to watch this?
I guess so. I don't know what I'm voting on yet. I mean, the dramatic music helps, I guess, but it's pretty fucking lame so far. To watch, I should say.
So we're watching a man. Doesn't have an air tank. He's just descending through the darkness. There's a line next to him, but he's not holding it. It's not propelling him down. He is going for the world record in diving without any assistance. The total depth is 120 meters.
I feel like I'm watching Lord of the Rings and something to do with Arwen right now with this music. You have any idea how much time this took?
I do not. You can watch the whole thing in real time, I believe.
I give this guy's lungs an absolute birdie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I would have died from fright way before any of this shit happened.
I would have run out of breath in like 20 seconds.
I guess that's true. I wouldn't have made it very far, thankfully. I give him personally a birdie, but I give the idea of free fall diving and triple bogey. I think it's weird. I don't know how you get into shit like this. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you and I both agree. It's impressive. It's cool. The whole idea is stupid.
I mean, it's cool. Like, you push the body to some extreme limits, and for that I give you the birdie. But yeah, the idea of free fall diving is, I will never watch that again, probably in my life, if I had to guess.
Major key alert, don't do free fall diving. I'm glad. That got recommended to me on Instagram randomly, and I clicked on it, and I was like, what in God's name am I watching? Which I guess is probably what a lot of people think about our hobbies, so, who are we to say?
I don't know. I'm sure if you showed 100 people disc golf and free fall diving, I think you'd have more hits on disc golf.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
We'll put a poll out there. We'll see what the people say.
All right, so what'd you think? Birdie, Bogey, or par? Is that a good segment? Do you like what you see?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I like that one of us just gets to pick random shit and then see the analysis behind the votes,
Yeah, I think you should, next time you get to do Birdie, Bogey, or par.
Okay. I will absolutely do that. I'll find some good stuff for you.
All right, sweet. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will catch you next time.
This is Leonard signing off.
Bye.